Hi, everybody. Today, I'd like to talk about the fact that we are living in the age of the developers, a truly unprecedented age in human history. We are living in an age where one single developer, if he or she is good at what they do, they can make a lot of impact. And that impact can be on the society, and of course they can be very financially those skills can be very financially rewarding for themselves, and they can put their creativity to test and scale things. There is tons of stuff which was just not possible at any other time in human history, and we'll see that. So what are the reasons for all of this? So one of the reasons is that there has been a tremendous rise in the availability of open source software, and we can find all sorts of very high quality open source software under different licensing models that one can use and mix and match based on of course there is an additional constraint that the licensing model of the open source software needs to be such that is conducive to whatever you are trying to do when you're using the open source software, right? So there are many liberal software licenses as well. For example, the famed MIT and Apache 2, which basically MIT license, for example, it just says that you can do whatever you want, right? Just commercial or otherwise. So that's a great one. So different licenses. Remember, not all licenses are the same in open source, and some are very permissive, like MIT license, right? For example, the MIT license. So just a reminder that please do evaluate whether the license in question uh, suits you, right? All right. Okay, so with that, we move on to the next. All right. So the next major reason is affordable cloud services. So this is indeed uh, a major reason. For example, there are tons of cloud services of all kinds. So, there is platform as a service, you know, infrastructure as a service, and of course, software as a service. So if you want to write some software, this is your software, let's say. All of this give an API, programmatic control over dimensions of platform as a service, infrastructure, and software as a service. And here you can, mix and match. In addition to write your own code, do stuff, bingo. And there's, of course, with that, there are a lot of other eases that have happened, right? So for example, scaling is easy, very easy, relatively, of course, as opposed to the days when if you had to write really massively scalable enterprise software, you had to take care of a lot of things, many scalability dimensions, and it was typically not very easy. You could easily, get it wrong. Now it's much easier. For example, there are patterns, there are services in the cloud which can just scale linearly, right? And of course, they'll charge you. Like, uh, services will just scale linearly, VMs will scale linearly, DBs will, scale linearly, etc., etc. It saves us tons of hassle, things that are just available out of the box. And earlier it was not so. So the next thing, of course, is all right. So the next thing is that there is a third factor, in my opinion, and that is we'll just say it. This is related to the fact that we just, discussed earlier as well, but basically, in a sense, you have pervasive, ubiquitous, high quality data network, right? You need to access the internet. You have 3G, 4G, 5G, whatnot. You have satellite internet. You have affordable satellite internet. You have cable internet, and whatnot at a very affordable price. And of course, this is one of the reasons that has helped the cloud computing gain traction, massive traction. But it was worth mentioning it, right? And the other reason is basically the fact that software is eating the world, right? So demand supply economics basically says that the demand of developers is very, very high, and supply is not matching up, basically. Supply is down. So what is the result? Techies, if they know their stuff, they get paid good money, right? And what do we mean when we say software is eating the world? Basically, what we mean is that in all industries, in all enterprises, in all types of human endeavors, in the current days, software is playing a role. You name it, you name the domain: entertainment, banking, government, anything, literally anything. All types of enterprises, they rely on software now to increase efficiency, to enable use cases that were just not possible earlier, right? And that needs developers. Okay, hence this. Finally, let's move on to the fifth and final element in my view, and that is the fact that remote work is increasingly more acceptable. This, by the way, was happening even before the COVID days, but COVID has, of course, accelerated uh, this pattern, basically, right? And companies have experienced, on account of the forced circumstances of COVID, that remote employment just works, right? Especially in areas of software, in any software intensive activity, pretty much all software intensive activities. There are very few for which, this might not be appropriate. In addition to that, short gigs, contracting, right? People like what they do, they make good money acting as a contractor, as a consultant, they get money, then they have dry period, they enjoy the money that they have earned, and then, when the moment is right, they contract again, so on and so forth. So both of these trends are increasingly acceptable, and it will continue to be so. Companies these days are really having a difficult time, hiring for good talent. It's a major problem, hiring for good talent these days, it's a real problem. So hence, Short gigs and remote work are here to stay, as long as you're good at what you do, right? All right. So, what does that mean for us? What that means is let's make use of all of this. Let's be creative and let's have fun. Let's create impact, you know, doing what we want. And of course, let's earn good bucks as well, right? Okay, so with that, uh, that is what I wanted to say. Good luck. Cheers to all the software developers and all the techies.